In the heart of a bustling human colony on a distant planet, Alex, a quiet young man, lived a simple life. He worked as a mechanic, fixing machines and helping the people around him. He was content, though his life felt incomplete. He longed for something more, but he wasn't sure what that more was. One day, while walking back to his small apartment, he saw something strange. Standing near the edge of the colony's market square was a woman, an alien woman. She had striking silver skin with soft lavender markings across her arms and face. Her eyes were large, dark, and full of curiosity, but there was something in them that made Alex pause, something that spoke of loneliness, of being lost. She was staring at a map in her hands, frowning as if she couldn't make sense of it. The market around her bustled with people, but no one seemed to notice her. Alex, drawn by the sight of the lone figure, couldn't help but walk over to her. "Hey," Alex said, his voice a little unsure, but he tried to smile. "Do you need help with that?" The alien woman looked up at him, startled. For a moment, she said nothing, just studying him with those deep alien eyes. Then she nodded, slowly, before speaking in a soft, melodic voice that sounded like wind through chimes. "I'm lost," she said, her accent thick and unfamiliar. "I do not understand this place. Can you help me?" Alex smiled again, more confidently this time. "Sure, I can help. Where are you trying to go?" She pointed at a distant building on the map, a place Alex knew well. "There," she said, tapping her finger on the map. "I need to go there." "Ah, that's just down the street," Alex said. "I can show you." As they walked together, the alien woman introduced herself as Ilara. She explained she was from a distant planet, a place far from the human colonies. She had come to this world on a mission, but something had gone wrong, and now she was stuck, unable to find her way back. The more Alex listened, the more intrigued he became. Ilara's story was fascinating, but it was her kindness that really stood out to him. She was unlike anyone he had ever met, her quiet grace and intelligence immediately drawing him in. Alex found himself wanting to protect her, wanting to help her in any way he could. By the time they reached her destination, they had talked for hours. They had shared stories about their lives, their hopes, and their dreams. There was a connection between them, something unspoken but powerful. As they said goodbye, Alex felt a strange sense of loss, as if their meeting wasn't just a coincidence. It felt like the beginning of something more. "I'll see you again, won't I?" Ilara asked, her eyes searching his. Alex nodded, a smile tugging at his lips. "I hope so." And with that, Ilara walked away, leaving Alex standing in the street, feeling like his life had just changed forever. In the days that followed, Alex couldn't stop thinking about Ilara. Their brief meeting had left a deep impression on him. He found himself walking through the same market square every day, hoping to see her again. It wasn't like him to be so restless, but something about her lingered in his mind. It wasn't long before their paths crossed again. Alex was working on a broken generator in a quiet corner of the colony when he heard soft footsteps approach. He looked up and saw Ilara, standing there with a shy smile. I was hoping I could see you again," she said, her voice still soft but now more confident. "I don't know anyone here, and you were kind to me. I thought, maybe we could talk again." Alex's heart skipped a beat. He smiled warmly and set down his tools. "Of course, Ilara. I'd like that." They sat together, talking for hours once again. This time, the conversation flowed easily. Alex learned more about her planet, about the place she called home, and the mission that had brought her to the human colony. Ilara explained that her species was peaceful, focused on exploration and learning. She had never been to Earth-like planets before, and everything here felt so strange to her. Alex shared stories of his own, of his quiet life on the colony, working on machines and helping others. He talked about his family back on Earth, about his dreams of one day seeing the stars, just like Ilara had. Despite their different backgrounds, they found common ground in their shared love of adventure and curiosity. As the days passed, Alex and Ilara grew closer. They began to meet regularly, spending time in the colony's parks or walking along the quiet streets, just talking and enjoying each other's company. Sometimes, it had been a few weeks since Alex and Ilara's bond had grown deeper. They spent nearly every day together, talking, laughing, and learning from each other. Alex began to look forward to every moment he could spend with her. Yet there was still one thing he hadn't known about her, something she had yet to reveal. One evening, as they walked through the quiet park near the colony, Ilara seemed quieter than usual. She had a distant look in her eyes, as if lost in thought. Alex noticed and gently nudged her elbow. "Ilara, is something wrong?" She hesitated, then looked up at him, her eyes filled with a mixture of hesitation and uncertainty. "Alex," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "There's something I need to tell you. I didn't know how to say it, but I think you deserve to know." Alex felt a sudden knot tighten in his stomach. "You can tell me anything. You know that." Ilara stopped walking and turned to face him, her expression serious. "I wasn't entirely honest with you when we first met. You see, I'm not just visiting this planet. I'm here for a reason. My mission wasn't just an exploration. I'm carrying your child." Alex blinked, unsure he had heard her correctly. His heart raced. "Wait, what?" Ilara nodded, her lavender eyes looking at him with a strange mix of vulnerability and sincerity. "I didn't know at first, but it's true. Our biology, your biology and mine, it's compatible in ways I didn't expect. It wasn't planned, but now I'm pregnant with your child." Alex stood there, frozen, his mind struggling to catch up with her words. He had always thought of himself as a rational person, but this was something far beyond anything he could have imagined. He stared at her, his thoughts spinning. "You're pregnant?" he asked again, this time his voice filled with disbelief. Ilara nodded slowly. "Yes. I didn't know what to do at first. I didn't want to burden you with this information, but I know now that I can't hide it anymore. I never wanted to force you into something you didn't choose." Alex took a deep breath, trying to absorb the information. His mind raced as he thought about everything he knew about Ilara. She had always been kind, gentle, and so honest with him. He couldn't imagine her ever lying to him. Is this why you were distant?" he asked quietly. "Because you were afraid of telling me." Ilara nodded again. "I didn't know how you'd react. But now, I need to know. Do you want this? Do you want us to be together with this child?" Alex's heart pounded in his chest. He looked into her eyes, and for a moment, all the uncertainty and fear melted away. He reached for her hands, holding them gently. "Ilara," he said softly, his voice filled with sincerity, "I don't know what this means for us, but I don't want to walk away from it. I want to be here, for you and the baby." A wave of relief washed over Ilara's face, and she smiled at him, her eyes sparkling with gratitude. "I'm so glad you're here," she whispered. "I was afraid you'd leave." "I'm not going anywhere," Alex promised. In that moment, Alex knew that everything was about to change, but he was ready to face it, because he wasn't alone, and neither was Ilara. After Ilara's revelation, the days that followed were filled with a whirlwind of emotions. Alex couldn't stop thinking about the future with Ilara and their child. He wanted to be strong for her, to support her in every way possible. But he couldn't help but feel the weight of the unknown pressing down on him. The news of their unborn child spread quickly through the colony, and not everyone was as accepting as Alex had hoped. People began to whisper behind their backs. Some of them, fearful of the alien-human union, looked at Ilara with suspicion. Others, more curious than hostile, asked Alex what it meant for them both. At first, Alex tried to ignore the rumors. He didn't care what others thought. What mattered to him was Ilara, and the love they had found in each other. But as the days passed, he could see how much the stares and the whispers hurt her. Ilara, always strong and composed, was now weighed down by the judgment of others. One evening, as they sat together on a bench near the colony's edge, Ilara spoke softly, her eyes fixed on the horizon. "Alex, I can feel their eyes on me all the time now. They look at me as if I'm different. They see my pregnancy, and they fear it." Alex looked at her, his heart aching. He knew that Ilara had always carried herself with grace and dignity, but the tension in her voice told him that the stress was starting to take its toll. "You're not different," Alex said firmly. "You're more than just your pregnancy. You're a person, someone I care about deeply." Ilara smiled weakly, but her eyes were filled with sadness. "I don't know how much longer I can keep this up, Alex. People are afraid of what they don't understand. They don't know how to handle us." Alex clenched his fists in frustration. He hated seeing her like this, but there was something else building inside him, a feeling of determination. He wasn't going to let others tear them apart. He wouldn't let them tear Ilara down. "I won't let them hurt you," Alex said, his voice steady. "We'll face this together. I'll protect you, no matter what." Ilara's eyes softened at his words. She reached for his hand, squeezing it gently. "Thank you, Alex. I don't know what I'd do without you." But despite his promises, the challenges were far from over. The next day, Alex went to his job, only to find that his supervisor, a stern man named Captain Hayes, had a few things to say about the situation. "Alex, we've been hearing a lot about you and that alien woman," Captain Hayes said, his tone cold. "I'm not sure if this is something the colony is ready for. You're not just a mechanic anymore. You're a symbol of something new, something that could cause trouble." Alex felt his chest tighten. He had expected some pushback, but this was different. Hayes was questioning his loyalty to the colony. "I don't care what anyone else thinks," Alex said, standing up straight. "Ilara and I are doing this together, and if anyone has a problem with that, they'll have to deal with me." Captain Hayes didn't respond. He simply nodded, but the look in his eyes told Alex everything he needed to know. The challenge had only just begun, but Alex knew one thing for sure. He wasn't backing down. Days passed, and the tension in the colony seemed to grow. The whispers about Alex and Ilara didn't stop. The looks they received when they walked down the street were sometimes filled with fear and other times filled with anger. Alex could feel it. He could feel the change in the air. People were no longer just curious about Ilara. They were afraid of her. It wasn't just the colony's residents who were staring. Even some of Alex's friends began to pull away. They avoided talking to him, no longer willing to share a drink or a laugh. The isolation weighed on him, but it hurt Ilara more. She had never felt this out of place before. She had always been confident, proud of who she was. But here, among humans, she felt like an outsider. Alex could see how much the stress was taking a toll on her. Her once bright smile was now rare, and she had become more withdrawn. Even the gentle glow of her lavender skin seemed dimmed by the weight of the world around her. But every time Alex saw her looking down, he reminded himself that he had to be strong for her. He would protect her, no matter the cost. One afternoon, as they sat together in their favorite spot by the park, Alex spoke up, trying to comfort her. "Don't let them get to you, Ilara. You're not alone in this." Ilara looked at him, her eyes tired but soft. "I know, but it feels like the whole world is against us. Every time I go out, I feel like I'm being judged for something I didn't ask for." Alex took her hand in his grip firm and reassuring. "I don't care what they think. You and I, we're in this together. If they can't accept us, that's their problem, not ours." Her eyes brightened slightly at his words, and she smiled, though it was faint. "You make it sound so easy." "It's not easy," Alex admitted. "But I'll make it easy for you. I'll stand by you, no matter what." Later that evening, Things took an unexpected turn. As Alex was walking home from work, he saw a group of people gathered near the market. At first, he thought it was just a normal crowd, but as he got closer, he realized they were staring at something or someone. Ilara. She was standing in the center of the group, surrounded by a few hostile-looking individuals. They were shouting at her, their words filled with anger and fear. Alex's heart raced as he rushed toward them, knowing he couldn't let this happen. "Hey!" Alex shouted as he reached the crowd, stepping in between Ilara and the group. "What's going on here?" One of the men turned to face him. "This alien doesn't belong here. She's a threat to us all. We don't know what kind of danger she's bringing to our colony." Alex's blood boiled. "She's not a threat. She's a person, just like you and me. And if you have a problem with her, you'll have to go through me." The crowd fell silent, surprised by his words. The man who had spoken looked at Alex for a long moment before sneering. "You're making a mistake, human. I don't care what you think," Alex replied, standing tall. "This ends now." For a long moment, no one moved. The tension in the air was thick, but Alex's presence seemed to calm the crowd. One by one, they began to disperse, muttering under their breath. Ilara, who had been standing silently behind Alex, finally spoke. "Thank you, Alex," she whispered, her voice shaking. "You didn't have to do that." Alex turned to face her, his expression softening. "I'll always do whatever it takes to protect you. You're mine to protect, Ilara. I'm not letting anyone hurt you." She smiled through the tears in her eyes, feeling a warmth inside her that she hadn't felt in weeks. It wasn't just the words, it was the promise behind them. In that moment, Ilara knew that she wasn't alone anymore. Together, they would face whatever challenges the world threw their way. After the confrontation in the market, things seemed to calm down for a while. The whispers didn't stop, but they grew quieter. The people of the colony were starting to realize that Alex and Ilara weren't going anywhere. They were a team, and nothing could change that. But even as things settled, Alex could feel the tension in the air. The colony wasn't fully ready for them. At least, not yet. Ilara, despite her strength, wasn't immune to the pressure. The constant stares, the judgment, weighed heavily on her. She spent more time in their apartment, away from the public eye. Alex tried to comfort her, but he couldn't make her feel safe from the world outside. One night, after a long day of work, Alex came home to find Ilara sitting on the couch, looking out the window. She seemed lost in thought, her fingers tracing the edge of a book she had picked up. She looked so far away, and Alex could sense the sadness in her. "Ilara," he asked softly, walking over to sit beside her. "What's on your mind?" She didn't answer right away. Instead, she turned her gaze to him, her lavender eyes filled with uncertainty. "Alex, do you ever think about the future? About what will happen to us?" He sat down next to her, taking her hand in his. "Of course I do. Every day. I think about how we'll build a life together, how we'll raise our child. I think about how we'll be stronger than anyone expects us to be." Ilara sighed, her shoulders slumping. "I want that too. I want to be with you, Alex. But the world isn't ready for us. I can feel the eyes on me everywhere I go. People look at me like I'm dangerous, like I'm something to be feared." Alex squeezed her hand gently, his voice filled with determination. "We don't need anyone else's approval. We have each other, and that's all that matters. We'll make our own path." "But what about the others?" Ilara asked, her voice trembling. "What about the colony? What if they never accept us? What if we're never safe here?" Alex could feel the weight of her words. He knew the colony had been tense since their relationship began, but he hadn't thought about it in quite this way. It wasn't just about the two of them. It was about the future of their child, too. What kind of world would they be raising their baby in? Would it be one where they were constantly looked at with fear and hatred? "I don't know what the future holds," Alex admitted, his voice soft. But I know one thing. We will make it through this. I will do whatever it takes to protect you, to protect our family." Ilara turned to face him, her eyes filled with gratitude. "You're right. We'll make it through. I just needed to hear you say it." Alex smiled, his heart swelling with love for her. "We're a team, Ilara. We face everything together." As they sat in silence, Alex made a silent promise to himself. He would protect them, no matter the cost. He would fight for their future, even if the entire colony stood against them. They had love, and that was more than enough to face whatever challenges lay ahead. The turning point had come. They would no longer be afraid of what others thought. Together, they would rise above it all. The days that followed were a test of Alex and Ilara's strength. The tension in the colony hadn't completely faded, but something had shifted. The whispers, the stares, they were still there, but they were quieter now. People had begun to notice how Alex and Ilara were standing strong, side by side, undeterred by the fear and hatred that others seemed to want to impose on them. Ilara had started to leave their apartment more often, though still cautiously. She would walk with Alex through the colony, head held high, though she often caught herself glancing around nervously. But now, whenever their eyes met, Alex could see a spark of hope in her that hadn't been there before. She was beginning to believe that maybe they could overcome this after all. One afternoon, as they walked together near the colony's central square, they were stopped by a familiar face. It was Sarah, a woman who had been one of Alex's few remaining friends. Sarah had avoided him for weeks, but now, there she was, standing in front of them. Alex froze for a moment, unsure of what to expect. Would she still have that cold look in her eyes? Would she turn away from them? But to his surprise, Sarah didn't turn away. She looked at Ilara, then at Alex, and took a deep breath. I owed you an apology," Sarah said, her voice soft but sincere. "I've been wrong about you too. I've been scared, and I let that fear guide my actions. I didn't understand what you have, Alex, but now I see it. I see the love between you, and I can't deny that." Alex was speechless, unsure of how to respond. It had been so long since anyone had said anything positive about them. He looked at Ilara, whose expression softened as she heard Sarah's words. "You don't have to apologize," Ilara said gently. "We all have our fears. But what matters is how we move forward. We're not asking for approval. We're asking for understanding." Sarah nodded, her eyes glistening with emotion. "I understand now, and I want to help. I want to make things right." For the first time in weeks, Ilara smiled, a true smile, full of warmth. Alex's heart lifted. It was a small step, but it was a step in the right direction. He realized that maybe, just maybe, things were beginning to change. One person at a time, the walls were starting to come down. That evening, as Alex and Ilara sat together in their apartment, they talked about the future. They talked about their child, about the life they would build together. And for the first time in a long while, Ilara didn't seem afraid. She was calm, secure in the love they shared. "I've been thinking," Ilara said, her voice thoughtful. "We fought so hard for this, and we will keep fighting. But maybe, just maybe, we can be the ones to show the colony that things don't have to be this way. Maybe we can change their minds." Alex nodded, his heart swelling with pride. "We will. Together, we can make them see." And for the first time since their journey began, Alex felt a deep sense of peace. The road ahead would be difficult, but they had each other. They had their love. And that was all they truly needed. The days after Sarah's apology brought a sense of calm that Alex and Ilara hadn't felt before. It wasn't that the colony had suddenly accepted them. It was far from that. But things were changing, slowly but surely. More people began to see the strength in their bond, and some, like Sarah, started to look at them with less fear and more curiosity. For Alex and Ilara, that small shift was enough. It gave them the courage to face the world outside their apartment, where once there had been nothing but judgment. Now, there was the possibility of something more: understanding, connection, and maybe even acceptance. One evening, Alex sat with Elara in their favorite spot, the quiet park near the colony center. The sun was setting, casting a soft, golden glow over the landscape. Elara leaned against him, her head resting on his shoulder. For the first time in a long while, she felt at peace. "You know," Alex said, his voice quiet, "I never imagined this is where I'd end up. But I wouldn't change a thing." Elara smiled softly, her eyes reflecting the fading light. "I used to think I was destined for something big, something important. I thought my mission here would change the world. But now, I realize, this," she gestured between them, "this is the most important thing I could ever do. Being with you, raising our child, building a life together." Alex took her hand in his, squeezing it gently. "We don't need to change the world, Elara. We just need to live in it. Together." They were quiet for a moment, just enjoying the calm of the evening. As they sat there, Elara's hand rested on her growing belly. She had never felt more connected to someone than she did right now. Connected to Alex, connected to their baby, and connected to the love they had built. "I've been thinking about our child," Elara said softly, breaking the silence. "What kind of world will they grow up in?" Alex looked at her, his heart full. "A world where they're loved. A world where they know they're special, no matter what others think. We'll teach them to be strong, kind, and brave, just like you." Elara's eyes filled with emotion, her heart swelling with love. "I want them to know that even in a world that's uncertain and sometimes unkind, love is the most powerful thing. Our love, Alex, that's what will guide them." "I'll make sure of it," Alex promised. "I'll always be here for you both." As the stars began to twinkle in the sky above, Alex pulled Elara closer, wrapping his arms around her. He didn't know what the future held, but one thing was certain: he would never let go of this. They had already overcome so much together, and he knew they would face whatever came next as long as they had each other. Elara rested her head on his chest, feeling the steady beat of his heart. She smiled, content. "Forever," she whispered. "Forever," Alex replied, his voice full of certainty. And in that moment, they both knew that their love was strong enough to face anything the world might throw their way. Together, they had already won. The world outside the apartment was still not fully ready for the union between Alex and Elara. There were still whispers, still stares, but something had shifted. The quiet acceptance that had begun to form between them and the people around them was now growing stronger. It wasn't just about them anymore. It was about their child, their future, and the love that had been built despite all the odds. In the days after their peaceful moment in the park, the couple found themselves facing a new chapter. The realization that Elara's pregnancy had not only changed their lives, but could change the way others viewed them became more and more evident. For Alex, the stakes had never been higher, but with Elara by his side, he felt stronger than ever. One morning, as the sun filtered through the windows of their apartment, Alex woke up to find Elara sitting by the window, staring out into the colony. She was quieter than usual, lost in thought, her hands resting on her belly. "Hey," Alex said softly, walking over to sit beside her. "What's on your mind?" Elara smiled at him, her eyes filled with warmth. "I've been thinking a lot about what comes next, about our future, about how we can make the world see us, see our child, not as something to be afraid of, but as something beautiful." Alex's heart swelled at her words. He took her hand in his, holding it gently. "We don't need their approval, Elara. We just need each other. We'll show them, through our love, that we belong." She nodded, leaning her head on his shoulder. "You're right. We've already shown them that love is stronger than their fear. And no matter what happens, we'll make sure our child knows that love is the foundation of everything." Later that day, there was a gathering in the colony. It wasn't a large event, But the people who attended it were important. It was a turning point, a moment for Alex and Ilara to show the world that they were more than just an oddity. They were a family, and they were proud of it. As they walked into the gathering, hand in hand, Alex could feel the eyes on them. There were those who looked away, uncomfortable, but there were also those who smiled, who nodded, as if they were starting to understand. Ilara's presence seemed to fill the room. She was no longer the alien woman who had arrived alone, uncertain of her place. She was someone's partner, someone's mother, and she was proud of it. As the evening wore on, a few people came up to them, offering small but meaningful gestures of support. A kind word, a gentle smile. The small acts of acceptance began to build, piece by piece, until, by the end of the night, Alex and Ilara realized that they had not just survived. They had begun to thrive. Later, as they walked back home, Ilara leaned into Alex, her voice filled with hope. "This is just the beginning, isn't it?" Alex kissed her forehead gently, his heart full of love. "Yes, just the beginning. We'll keep going together. Our family will be our strength, and that's all we need." With the love they shared and the strength they had found in each other, Alex and Ilara knew that the future was theirs to shape. No matter what challenges lay ahead, they would face them united as a family, with love leading the way. As the weeks passed, Alex and Ilara found themselves in a new chapter of their lives. The challenges they had faced, the stares, the whispers, the fear of the unknown, were still there, but they no longer felt as heavy. They had weathered the storm together, and with each passing day, the world around them seemed to soften. The colony, slowly but surely, began to accept them as they were, just two people, in love and preparing to build a life together. The day arrived when they sat in their apartment, surrounded by a few close friends who had come to support them, both human and alien. There was laughter in the air, a sense of celebration, and for the first time in a long time, Alex felt a deep sense of peace. Their love had not only survived, it had grown, and in its wake, they had found something even stronger. "Ilara," Alex said quietly, taking her hand in his as they sat together. "I never thought I would be here like this, with you, with our child. But now, I can't imagine anything else. You've changed my life in ways I can't even explain." Ilara smiled at him, her eyes filled with love. She placed a hand on her growing belly. "You've changed mine, too, Alex. When I first came here, I was just a stranger in a foreign world. But now I know what it feels like to truly belong. With you, with our child. And that's all I need." They sat in a peaceful silence, the soft sound of their breathing and the gentle hum of life around them, filling the room. The world outside still had its challenges, but they knew now that they were ready to face whatever came their way. Later, as the night grew late and their friends began to leave, Alex and Ilara stood at the door, watching them go. For the first time, there was no fear, no uncertainty, just a quiet confidence that the world was slowly opening up to them. They had already made their mark. "Do you remember the first time we met?" Ilara asked, her voice full of warmth. Alex chuckled softly. "How could I forget? You were standing there in the market, looking lost, and I was just drawn to you." Ilara laughed, her laugh light and full of happiness. "I remember. I didn't know what to do, but you helped me. You didn't see me as an alien. You just saw me." "That's all I've ever seen," Alex said, taking her hand again. "I never saw you as anything other than Ilara, the woman I love, the mother of our child." The love between them had grown stronger than they ever could have imagined. They had found something rare and precious, something that no one could take away from them. The future was theirs to shape together, and with each passing day, they knew their love would guide them through whatever came next. As they stood in the doorway, looking out at the world they would continue to build, They both felt a sense of certainty, a promise that whatever challenges they faced, they would face them together as a family. And nothing would ever change that.